know me, I'm Tara Emory. I've a trans woman who's worked in the adult industry for about 20 something years now and show no sign of slowing down. Other people say I'm a pioneer and all that stuff, and I'm not particularly good at describing myself that way because, one day I'll be describing myself as a porn star, one day I'll be describing myself as an artist and a filmmaker or a fashion designer, and it changes a couple of times a year. And definitely this year has been very topsy-turvy, and a lot of amazing things have happened, and a lot of amazing things are still to happen because I have a lot of good news, I guess. I have not spoken a lot on YouTube about the documentary about me called The End of Wonderland. It is a feature-length documentary about me. It is not a, movie-length commercial from my adult website, and nor is it like a cautionary tale of the pitfalls of the adult industry. I think people who are thinking to see a story of someone living on the streets, hooked on drugs, having to do porn, you're going to be sorely disappointed because that is not my life story. My life story is quite a bit different than that. As probably best shown on the poster here, me in one of my burlesque outfits in a junkyard. Even though that is not the junkyard that I grew up in, that is a junkyard that we shot the poster art in December, right as it was premiering. And yes, the poster does look great. If I had my way with it, I would have maybe, photoshopped my hips in a little bit or something. May have played around with it a tiny bit. And hello, cat. Okay, this is something that's gonna happen. No, you don't want to get comfortable there. I'm in the middle of a show right now. You gotta run along. Ugh. Oh God, it's like I have like the crypt keeper of cats. She's 16 years old and she weighs 4 pounds, and you don't want to hold her because she's just bones. This bag of bones, Selene, but I've had her for 16 years. Where was I? Okay, so I was talking about The End of Wonderland. The End of Wonderland is a feature documentary about me. There is this French-Canadian girl, filmmaker, Laurence Turcotte-Fraser, if I can pronounce that right. I was doing a performance at Club Cleo's in Montreal, and this was like maybe April of 2013. It was quite a while ago. She was actually there to film someone else's performance, which is kind of crazy. But instead, she was sort of captivated by what I was doing. This other person's performance was actually a friend of hers, and she's like, no, I just like gravitated towards this person who had this presence, which was me. So what happened was she filmed me doing a performance there that night, and then every time I would come to Montreal to do Fetish Weekend or the other events that I come from Montreal for. So she would film me every time I was coming to Montreal. What ended up happening was she started doing a documentary on the fetish scene in general, sort of focusing on me. So she'd actually like interviewed a whole bunch of other people, and it was kind of about the fetish scene, but it was centering on me. But they followed me around for about 5 years, and then they decided to just make it about me. They came down to Mexico when I was getting some plastic surgery done. They came to upstate New York when I went to a French car show that I go to. And then when they saw my house and my studio, which was known as Wonderland, they found this bigger story about me growing up in a hoarder house. My dad was a huge hoarder, and it took me 10, 20 years to clean out his hoard mostly car stuff. And I'm probably going to make more videos on car stuff because some of it is of some interest to me. But I do want to talk specifically about the hoarding in another video, because it is a whole topic in of itself, and they only kind of scratched the surface of it in The End of Wonderland. They saw that I had the studio, and I was losing the studio because I couldn't afford to buy it, and my career was kind of in this weird winding down, because you get to be, if you're a porn star in your 40s, heck, if you're a porn star in your 30s, your career is apparently over, but I'm milking it like well into my 40s. And then I also have my trans sci-fi porn epic, Up Uranus, which I hadn't finished, which was just like this. It was like the big It was like the Beach Boys' Smile album, lost masterpiece that was never finished because the artist couldn't get over themselves to finish it or something. That's kind of how it looked to them. So that's what they ended up making the whole documentary about. Okay, I guess it's time to show the trailer anyway.
If you told me 20 years ago what I'd be doing today, I would be like, what? I'm like a model? What? I'm gonna model and be like this really pretty girl wearing these crazy outfits, and I'm gonna have my tits. What? I'm gonna have tits?
Okay, I just want to say first thing, I really wish I could re-record all of the interviews made for this movie because I mean, I'm not happy with how I'm presenting my voice. They got me in a lot of although people have said that they like the vulnerable aspects of the film. But yeah, if I had my choice, I would re-record everything that I did for it in my squeaky porn star voice, you know, which my hentai voice. But whatever, it's authentic, so that's what it is.
I was always encouraged to make art and to create things. I kind of just hoard, I sort of hoard things that I can use for photo shoots. I'm really worried that if I lose this barn, I'm not going to be able to finish my space movie.
Oh my, an army of testosterone. Something
I can't watch any part of my film without actually quoting it.
I grew up in a yard full of cars. My dad was a Volkswagen mechanic, and so we had a yard full of Volkswagens. I kind of shared in the booty of finding things. You can have many different lives, I think, if you've been in that adult industry. You can just go and fade away or just disappear into society. And I don't think I'm not gonna go quietly into the void.
If you guys want to see some performances, please direct your attention to the end of the pool tables. We have Tara Emory, past, present, and future, to perform it for you.
A lot of people sort of fade away. I want to get my name out there.
So yeah, that is the trailer for it. Yeah, it's more of like a scrappy underdog tale of someone who's not quite making it in America, but is very determined to make it. End of Wonderland. They shot this film from 2013 all the way right up till right before the pandemic hit. It actually sort of some of the last filming they did. It was so strange how at the beginning of the pandemic, they finished the filming, there was a big club in town, Machine, nightlife, nightclub in town that was pretty important, that also just happened to close right before the pandemic because they sold the building because, Boston real estate, right? Everything just ended at the same time, and then they had the film. They had a version of it that was finished, but it didn't quite have as much punch as what they ended up with. So the pandemic was good for the filmmakers because they were able to make a much better film. Yeah, they were able to make a much better film that had an emotional core to it, and also something that has way more broad appeal. The audience of people that are seeing the film, and I'll get to that in a second, they're not like my fans or chronic masturbators or whatever, they're not the kind of people who maybe would normally have sought this sort of thing out because they made a human interest story. I guess that's what you would call it. And that was the big difference in the version of the film they made before, when it was like me and they were basically making a film for the fetish community, focusing on me, whereas once they saw the rest of my life, they had a bigger story to tell that appealed to a wider audience. So what is going on with the film? Pandemic comes and goes. So we get on to November of 2021, and we had a bunch of film festivals in the fall, starting in the fall of 2021. This is myself and the filmmaker Laurence. this is us in Amsterdam for the International Documentary Film Festival of Amsterdam, which should be IDFA with 2 F's, but it's just 1 F. And interestingly enough, what you see in this photograph was they recreated a corner of my studio where in the film I'm shooting in front of sort of pink and white striped backgrounds with green polka dots. That's the easy, if you're going to shoot crazy over-the-top fetish outfit, porn, you don't want a very busy background. You just, the background is just there so that there's always something behind the figure. It's about the figure. That was really cool that in Amsterdam they recreated that, and I think this is us waiting for the screening to start. We did a bunch of question and answer sessions, and here it is. It was Queer Day apparently at IDFA, so there I am doing the question and answering session. And that was the first of many of these. That is just some clubbing pictures. So that was the first film festival, although I think, okay, technically there was one before that, which was the RIDM, which is Documentary Festival in Montreal. That was like a one-night festival. IDFA was several nights, so it played over 3 or 4 nights. In March, we did London. So London was, it's called BFI Flair. I think BFI stands for Boston, sorry. Wait, duh. British Film Institute, that's obvious. Don't know why I couldn't think about that. But yeah, British Film Institute, it was their sort of LGBT film festival. So it played there as well. It has played at a few other film festivals that I haven't been able to go to. One which was in India, and another one in Sicily. Why can't they send me to Sicily? And I do believe also Brussels. Brussels was actually an adult film festival. So Brussels was the Brussels Porn Film Festival, apparently. It's been a good run. I mean, these are small film festivals. This isn't huge. Then it came around that this last September, we were going to do okay, so getting ahead of myself slightly, one of the things in End of Wonderland that is a big problem is that I haven't finished my film Up Uranus. Or Up Uranus. I don't know why everybody keeps saying Up Uranus. It's Up Uranus. So yeah, this film was not finished. And so, but I had between like November and November of 21 and the summer of 2022 to finish it up. Mostly all the principal photography, all of the things with all the actors and actresses had been shot. It's just the spaceship effects and some robot voices and things that hadn't been shot. So I'm going to get to Up Uranus in a little bit. But I did finish it. So spoiler alert, I did finish the film. And the idea was that we were going to have a double feature screening at Montreal Fetish Weekend. So Montreal Fetish Weekend is, of course, their big weekend, Labor Day weekend, that I've been to several of them before. It's an event. I've done like 10 of these in my life, where I get to dress up in my crazy shit and do my thing, I guess, right? So, but we're going to do a double feature of End of Wonderland and Up Uranus. And we got it finished in time, and it was a good little double feature, and it was a great little trip. So they had a very small theatrical run. They had movie posters for End of Wonderland all up over town in places, like along, like, maybe not the subways so much, but like on the sidewalks and everything. And it was pretty damn cool. So anyway, it was really good. It was really, really good. It was a very small theatrical run. It ran for about a week or two. I think it ran at a couple of other, it ran in, I think, Sudbury, Ontario, and also Quebec City. And I wasn't there for those, unfortunately. So yeah, it was kind of neat seeing my posters up. Yeah, like I am, behind a barrel, a construction barrel. And as far as I know, not a single one of the posters was defaced with a Sharpie mustache. I sort of reserved the right to do that. I was actually going up and signing the posters, as I saw them, which is pretty cool. I was autographing them, but none of the posters on these walls were anything that you could actually you couldn't rip them off. They were very, very thin paper. So yeah, posters of me up all over town. So my film, Up Uranus, is now finished, or it is at least in a finished version. We So what happened was Laurence, who you've probably seen in one of the other photos. So this is like mid August, right? I was not in a great place. I had to do a couple of fundraisers. Fundraisers that all completely imploded because the fundraising people at Indiegogo and also GoFundMe put an end to my fundraisers. Basically, I wanted people to give me money so that I could just finish my film instead of having to go crazy going on Chatterbait and wondering where the money's going to come from, because maybe they'll shut the fucking electricity off and I won't finish my film because I won't be able to power my computer or something stupid like that, right? So I had about a month left, and I had so much stuff to do. And then the actual edit of the film in Final Cut Pro was I had just been looking at it for 10 years because yeah, I suppose I should back up. I started the film Up Uranus in the year 2008, so more than 10 years, um, which is kind of nuts. But what happened, the way that we finished it was Laurence, who made End of Wonderland, she was probably the second most person out there past me who was familiar with Up Uranus because she had seen all of the footage. You know, she'd had a whole work print of the movie. I can use that actual term finally. She had a work print of the film, so she knew what the plot was and she knew how it went and stuff. And so she's like, "Well, I'll come down, you know, before we go up to Montreal for the premiere of it," because the big premiere was like, you know, September 3rd or something, right? So she came down like maybe like August 21st. So she came down and like, "Look, I will help you with the edit." And I was just like, just take it. Like I was tired of looking at it. I just sort of like, I never really handed off my editing work to someone else for fear of what they would do to it. You know, oh my God, you know. And you know, I think the first day she was making these drastic changes to the movie. She was like flipping scenes around, so it started with a different scene instead of the scene it originally started with. And I was like, what the fuck, you know? But they worked. It worked. It worked better. And she sort of maybe coaxed a bit more plot out of it than there was originally. And because I had a lot of shit I had to still do. I had to do matte paintings. I had just finished. So what the picture you're seeing here this is me in one of my big Victorian dresses that I made, and that is a grape arbor in my backyard where I poured all these concrete called balusters, you know, for the railing, for that sort of palatial thing. I made this entire landscaping feature for my backyard specifically to shoot a scene in a Victorian scene for my science fiction movie that takes place in the future being the year 1997. That is very confusing. See, it is retro future. I'll get to that in a second. But yes, it's like a virtual reality goggles scene. So my character, who is Commander Astra Galactica, is imagining herself to be in sort of Gibson Girl era Paris. And in order to do that in my backyard, because I wasn't actually going to film in Paris, I built this thing around a grape arbor. And it's kind of nuts because the grape arbor itself was literally a telephone pole, you know, because, you know, sometimes you just have an extra telephone pole in your yard that you don't know what to do with. So I cut it into 4 sections that were about like 10 feet long, stuck them in the ground, which was about as hard as lifting an Egyptian obelisk. Got them in the ground, put the grapes back on top of it, long story, and then I built all the other stuff around it. It took me like a year off and on to pour all the concrete for this project, just so that I would have a place to shoot my sort of Victorian sex scene for my film, which is nuts. But it was going to be, the idea was to sort of, I think I'm showing a little bit of nipplage here. Hang on, let me just fix that. Much better. Okay. So yeah, so this is all what you would call matte paintings. So like all this hey cat, do not knock my light over. Very bad. All right, we're gonna have to, hi Selene. Hello Selene. if you're gonna start getting used to my podcast, I'm gonna go off on some crazy ass tangents. But anyway, okay. Long story short, made all these matte paintings to go with my backdrops. So we did a lot of locked off tripod shots where I was able to add all these gardens and the Eiffel Tower. Yeah, and the gardens were actually, I had been to England like years ago and I'd taken a lot of photographs of gardens. So it's really nice when you're making your matte paintings to actually have your own photographs instead of grabbing photos off the internet that may or may not be copyrighted. Here's my character. I am Commander Astragalactica, and I believe this scene, or these scenes, were shot in 2009 or so, and my boobs are not as big. My makeup is not as good. My lips are not as good or as big as they usually are. I'm not wearing false eyelashes. I don't even know if I'm plucking my eyebrows. This is definitely before I had brow work. So yeah, in this film, my the continuity is completely out the window because in my apparently in my virtual reality glasses fantasy, I'm like 12 years older. So I'm a MILF in those scenes. But yeah, so my character is Commander, with a U, Commander Astragalactica. And that's every ASS, yeah, and then ASSS. So Astragalactica, yeah. We tried to do as much as we could with puns. And then Mandy Mitchell, she was Dildroid, my sort of cybernetic loverbot companion. And her performance was wonderful, and it may be going somewhere. I'm going to get to that in a little bit. Hold that thought. Put a pin in that one. She had to wear an extremely uncomfortable outfit that I made out of this sort of hard plastic stuff. In most of the filming, I think half of the outfit is off. But a lot of the sex scenes that we did together actually kind of got trimmed down. The version of the film we made was perhaps a bit light on the porn part, and but all the best bits are in there. So this is a movie that has a lot of quotable lines. It actually has a plot somewhat. There's betrayal, and there's guns that disintegrate your clothes, and then there are sex robots that are going to blow your mind away. So the villainess of the film is Tiffany Starr as Queen Xandixia, and that is Xandixia spelled XXXANDIXXXIA. So every time there's X in her name, it's triple X, because it's porn, guys, right? So Xandixia, but with 6 X's. And she's great in it too. Everybody else has a better part than I do. It sucks being like, being like the main hero, and like it's better to be the cool alien, or like, the villain. It's way more fun to be those characters. This is me in the film. All these sets that I built. This is all the stuff that I built in the Wonderland studio. Yeah, a lot of cardboard sets. I mean, we're looking at there's like paper plates painted silver, lots and lots of silver paint. Holy shit, the amount of silver paint I went through. I went through so much like chrome silver paint that I also like not taste tested, but I had to like comparison test. How does Krylon chrome look? How does, Rust-Oleum look? And then how does this other brand look? And it turned out that Rust-Oleum Bright Coat was the brightest and the best chrome paint, but you couldn't touch it after it was dry because you'd smudge it. But it showed it looked the best on camera. So yeah, a lot of chrome paint. So the thing that needed to be finished was all the special effects. So my character spaceship is called the Vibrator, which is kind of a play on the Liberator from Blake 7. This whole universe is very much influenced by like 1970s and 80s Doctor Who and Blake 7 and like old Star Trek and stuff like that. You're not going to see state-of-the-art CGI in this film. Everything is very low-tech and practical effects and kind of looks like crap. But that's the point of it. That is the Vibrator escaping Uranus. Gotta get out of Uranus. And here we see Queen Xandixia's very large... Okay, let me back that one up. You can't quite see that on my ship there are kind of balls. They're supposed to be kind of dick-shaped. So that's a dick-shaped ship. And then this one is also like a dick-shaped ship. except it's doing kind of the Star Wars destroyer thing. I'm trying to not think a lot about Star Wars because there's just so much goddamn Star Wars out there. The only Star Wars that I was thinking of was maybe like the original one, because that's the kind of stuff that influenced me growing up. You know, I mean, I definitely growing up would love to have, and probably in a parallel universe, I could have had a career working for Industrial Light and Magic had I gone out to California and not been stuck cleaning up my dad's yard and fell into a life of porn, right? So anyway, here's the Violator. Sorry, that's the name of her ship, the Violator, and as it is heading towards the hapless victims of Space Station Masturbator 69, which was maybe a bit more of a mouthful than we should have done. So okay, here's the vibrator again. And this is all just in front of green screen. And I got some pretty cool, make that small again. I got some pretty cool effects because I was doing things like I would have the spaceship hanging from like a really strong fishing line with green screen behind it and then spinning it. And then I would move the camera like this way. And so you'd get like these kind of barrel rolls and stuff. And it worked out really well for the film. So this is a lot of the stuff that I was doing this spring and summer. I shot so much goddamn footage of barrel rolls and, you know, dolly shots, because I built a dolly as well, sort of like skateboard wheels on a platform that you put the camera on, and then you would track in on your spaceship in front of a green screen, and then you remove the green and you replace that with like moving stars, and it looks like the spaceship coming to you. Thing that you don't want to do is you don't want to actually try to move the spaceship towards you. There's Space Station Masturbator 69, which is made out of it's wheelchair wheels. I believe there's a couple of carousels for an old slide projector in there. That's kind of what we're seeing in there. A lot of cardboard, a lot of stuff painted gray. There's another shot of the Violator. So the Violator, all that we're seeing here is motherboards from old Mac computers. Every time I had a computer or an old PC that I parted out, I saved the motherboard and I would spray paint it gray, and then I'd put it on this, basically a foam thing. The engines are toilet plungers, or sink plungers technically. So the Violator came out really amazing. It probably was the best of the ships. But the star of the show may actually be the Testastrobots. So basically, in this future, this is the year 1997, and basically what happened is there were these atomic wars in the 1950s that killed off all the men. So you have trans women, you have women, and that's it. There's no more men anymore, and civilization completely like healed itself. Interestingly enough. But in order for the women of the Martian colonies of like 1975 to like have something to fuck them, they built Testastrobots, and of course they went haywire, and everything went really bad. So in the film they all say bad pickup lines, and they're made out of like Rubbermaid storage bins and various other things. I should probably do a separate video just showing you what each part of the Testosterobot is made out of, because I believe I have one complete one. I have another one that's like 75% complete, and then I had a top half of another one. What you end up doing with these props is you make a hero prop, then you make the second one you make comes out better, and then like you make the third one, and then the first one gets trashed. But in any event, they all get cloned in Photoshop. So this is all special effects. Like as you can see in this picture here, that's the same robot like 3 times probably. And here we have the same. I just like took photographs of the robot from this angle, from this angle, from this angle, and then photoshopped them all together to make like these armies. And even doing this, I wish I had spent more time on this stuff, because we were down to like the last week and I was still making matte paintings, you know. We didn't even shoot the Victorian scene till like we had a week left. And I put together 5 matte paintings for the Victorian scene together in that day. And on top of that, I also had an animation to do for the film. So yeah, so there was a little like instructional film strip info dump where we learned about what the Testastrobots are. I didn't finish the animation, so that's something I have to go back and finish. But still, the fact that I was coloring like like 4 or 5 of these panels a day, I still got a lot done. So yeah, here are the testosterobots on the surface of Uranus, where my character, Commander Astroglaska, has to go up against them and basically fuck them all to get into the base and find out what the fuck is going on. The robots we see here, the ones that are standing, they're actually people in them, and they can look out like, so you see like the abs on the robot? That's like one-way glass, and so they're looking out the one-way, the mirror film on the like the six packs, right? So that's where they see out of them, and then they're also on little platforms as well. So that makes them about 8 feet tall. The testosterobots may be the actual stars of the film. All the testosterobot footage was shot ages and ages ago, but one of the things that hadn't happened is I didn't have any voices for them. I was like, oh god, we'll just record something. And so when Laurence came down to do the editing, she just called in her friends, from Canada, to like just record a bunch of the robot lines, and then we basically played around with them in Pro Tools or something to make them sound more robot-like, right? And well, one of them has like a distinct like Quebecer accent. One of the robots is from Canada, right? So, but yeah, we didn't have the lines worked out. I had to like write all. So we basically I actually wanted to get the people who were in the robots years and years ago to record their lines, but they didn't get back to me. Like, we just need someone to record. It doesn't matter who it is, right? We had like some really good actors who just did an amazing job. And Laurence also got a lot of incidental. I had done most of the music for the film, but she got a lot of extra incidental music and sound effects and stuff like that to really just make the whole thing like really work. So yeah, the testosterobots, and well, that's me. That's supposed to be a testosterobot penis. Can I show this on YouTube? Because it is like a robot penis, guys, and it is actually what that is Diet 7-Up and Mentos. I dropped Mentos down into like the robot penis, and had the it's like the Diet Coke thing, right? But Diet Coke is brown, so you don't want to do that, right? So you do Diet 7-Up or Diet Sprite. Yeah, so that was how I did the explosive orgasms, sorry, of the robots. So yeah, you can see the edges of the set. There's a couple of shots where you can see someone behind the robots using it. It's like all that stuff is kind of still in the film. I am tempted to go through and kind of fix some of those things. The version of the film that we did finish for Montreal was a little incomplete. There were about 3 or 4 shots that I really wanted in there that I didn't get time to film. So it's a little plot hole-ish in places. And I'm still going to film that stuff and stick it back in, and I'm also going to finish up on the animation. Here's some of the effect shots, because I ended up getting some pretty good, pretty crazy shots of the ship flying around. I had explosions. At one point, I actually, before I had built the Violator spaceship, before I put all the circuit boards onto it, I put the circuit boards flat on a table to sort of make like a landscape of kind of like the Death Star surface, right? As my little tiny ship, because this is the wonderful thing that you can do in your green screen is I can make my ship, which my ship is pretty big. It's it's this big. It's almost as big in reality as the Vibrator ship is, but you can make it tiny with effects, So I was able to make it look like a fly on an elephant or something, And I had a lot of pyrotechnics as well. Back in college, I used to make films in college, like action films, and we had things like exploding squibs and blood packs, and I blew up models of stuff. I may do a little YouTube video about the stuff I used to do in college because it was pretty cool. It definitely is the precursor to this stuff, but it was done in a different life, There's my ship landing. I had to remove the wires, in editing and stuff. So this ship was made, there's like a piece of PVC pipe in it, and then it's covered with foam because I was trying to get like a compound curve to it. A compound curve is like, I just didn't want like a tube, that kind of got tapered at the end. I wanted to taper like this, That's really tricky to do. And then it's covered in poster board that's painted silver. And then I used the nail to make all these little like rivet like holes in it. It's pretty amazing. The ship looks pretty cool. And we didn't trash it either. Like, there were plans to blow everything up at the end of the movie, and that didn't quite happen, which is probably a good thing. I also had to build one more set. This is the set for the hypersonic overdrive. And since I didn't have my studio anymore, I had to build this outdoors. So this set had to be constructed, shot on, and then torn down before the dew fell on it, because the whole thing was made out of paper and cardboard, and the morning dew would have just destroyed everything. So yeah, I was pretty much under the gun. And this is one of the other scenes that we had to shoot in August as well. The hypersonic overdrive is what it's obviously a hypersonic overdrive, and it has like a I suppose in this future all the spaceships are they travel the speed of sound or whatever, right? It's super low tech, right? It's like not even the speed of light. It's just 10 times the speed of sound. Wow, really fast, right? But anyway, it has like a black hole in it or something, which comes in later, don't want to give too much away of the plot. So the film itself is available on my ManyVids. It's also available on my VIP membered website. I don't know if I'm allowed to say what the URLs are, but I think people pretty much know them. We finished the film, or we finished a version of it to screen from Montreal. And then come mid-September was submissions for the AVN Awards. So I kind of hastily, I had to make a couple changes to it because we actually had some copyrighted music in it, or we had some music we didn't have the rights to do, and we had to replace that. So anyway, I got it out there for AVN Award nominations, and I submitted it for 3 different categories, and it has actually been nominated for 6 AVN Awards. So that is like a real big deal, for me, that I'm finally up for awards. And one of those awards is actually, one is for editing, so that actually includes Laurence, who helped edit the film, or basically took over the edit, so I'm not sure how much of it is still my film, or if she took what I did and sort of trimmed it and really tightened it down. But one of the other AVN awards is for Mandy Mitchell's performance as Dildroid, and then I think there's like hair and makeup and like comedy of the year and whatever. So whether or not I win any of those, I don't know yet. The ceremony is out in Vegas in beginning of January. And I don't even know how I'm going to get out there because the other thing is I'm broke at the moment. So, I really need to sell this film, and I also need to, like I was doing fundraisers for the film where it was like auctioning off props and stuff. And I'm going to do more of that kind of stuff. More information of that will be available when I get the UpUranus.com website up. So there's going to be a website for the film that's going to talk a lot about it. But I felt that I needed to say something on YouTube about it and on social media in general, because I haven't talked I mean, there's just the feed every day. Oh, I did a little bit of this, I did a little bit of this, But anyway, about the AVN Awards, they kind of reviewed the version of the film that we made for Montreal. I think I'm calling it the theatrical cut now. This is the hypersonic overdrive as it was up in my backyard with the harsh light of day on it, right? And that was actually leftover props from a photo shoot that I did as an anime character. And this is just the same, like, so much of the sets for this film were these venting baffles. If you're making a roof on your house and you want like the hot air to kind of go around the insulation and go out the top, they have all these plastic baffles. They're really cheap, but they have all these X's in them, and if you paint them like silver, they look like scaffolding or something. So there's some of the robots. I think I had to do another. They needed a new coat of paint. So as you can see, these are the shoes. So actually, it's funny because this scene, the scene shot with the hypersonic overdrive, I had to get into the robot costume. So everybody in the world played a robot, including me. That's actually a Texas Instruments computer as a little keyboard for the hypersonic overdrive. And yeah, there I am. So that is how you wear the outfit. Your feet are kind of maybe, I think that you're on about 8 inches of platform. Your feet are down inside there. I think there's like a strap that goes around your waist that kind of holds that up. And then the other part, the top of it, is just on top of you. So this is just some behind the scenes stuff of me in the Victorian scene. I think I actually had Eiffel Tower earrings. So what if there's 12 years of difference between, I look better in the older stuff than I do in the younger stuff. So there, you know. So yeah, the film is done, but I want to go back and make a director's cut. I want to film all that stuff that I didn't get a chance to film. There was going to be maybe a little bit more of an explosive end to it that didn't quite happen. These are some of the sketches for the animation shots. And the animation, I didn't even do it in an animation program. I was gonna like sit down and relearn Flash because I used to use Flash like 20 years ago. And I have an old computer that runs Flash, but I was just like, it wasn't going to happen in time. So I knew that I could do everything in Photoshop, just layers of Photoshop, and just move things in Final Cut, because I use Final Cut Pro, and just make it kind of like a film strip more than anything, you know? I do want to spend another week on the animation, because we had to cut some corners there. There are some plot holes too, but the thing is, the plot of the movie as it was written didn't make a lot of sense, and it's not supposed to be important. It's supposed to be, they have a bunch of sex, then a little bit of plot, then they have a bunch of sex. And when you think the villain is actually blown up, oh, she got away, you know, so there's that. There's quite a lot of tropes in it. Cartoon robot covered in splooge. So yeah, I did a ton of work, and maybe it'll win some awards. And maybe I can somehow get my ass down to AVN to go to the awards ceremony. It's gonna happen one way or the other, but right now I'm at this weird crossroads in my life where the best thing that I have going for me is actually getting word out about my film, getting word out about my just me in general, and the documentary and stuff. So this is why I'm doing things like this little show here. Where can you donate? I do have a Patreon, and I am gonna be like, I wanted to do a thing where because now that I've finished the film, I don't really need a lot of the props, and even though I don't think anyone's gonna like end up with one of the spaceships or like one of the robots, I do have things just like robot heads and extra parts of costumes and stuff, and then of course there's a lot of drawings, production drawings from the film. So I was hoping that I can kind of get that as like a continuous revenue stream, because right now my Patreon is like kind of in the toilet. The next thing that's gonna happen is there will be a website for the film. So yeah, it's just circuit boards, you know, painted and just dramatically lit. You know, you just get like one kind of light source on them. And unfortunately, this spaceship was very, very heavy. It was like on a 2x4 mounted on a thing, and it's sitting out in my backyard now, and it's kind of half fallen apart. What I didn't get a chance to do is it was gonna get kind of trashed. It's gotten trashed on its own, but it was supposed to get really trashed. So I'm saving it in case I actually film the trashing. So there'll probably be more to happen to it. There's our sink plungers in the back, and this is just like what it looks like in front of. I think I tried blue screen and green screen for, you know, different things. It's not very penis shaped, really. It's supposed to be somewhat, but it didn't quite come out. I had to kind of work with what I got, you know, and I just happened to have a bunch of circuit boards and the space station made out of wheelchair wheels in my backyard, because I was doing all this filming in my backyard because I had lost my studio. So this was, you know, I got really lucky over the summer because we didn't have a lot of rain. That's how I spent my summer, building spaceship models and stuff. Yeah. So okay, so where can you see the End of Wonderland film? I don't know yet. They had done the little theatrical run in Canada, and then it kind of just went away, I guess. I think there may be a couple more film festivals. It might kind of be the end of the line for it. They are looking into streaming services and stuff. I think it may come to one popular streaming platform, but not Netflix or Amazon. But it would be really good if it was on Amazon Prime, because they do play human interest documentaries on something like Amazon Prime. And yeah, I mean, I'm not 100% happy with the documentary, but I didn't commission it. You know, it's not like I hired these people to make it. I was like, okay, just film me, you know. And I think that they made something that was very respectful, though, because they respected and looked up to me, and they believed in me. So that was kind of what the documentary is about. It will probably come to some kind of streaming platform within a few months, I would hope. I mean, I don't know if it's going to end up on YouTube or something. I mean, I was back when, like, during the pandemic, like, oh, just throw it up on YouTube, I don't care. Like, no, we're doing the film festival route, and that's like way better. You know, the film festival route like gets the right people interested in it. You know, trying to impress the bigwigs or whatever, right? So I don't quite know if that's exactly what happened, but I think it was definitely a good way to go because you're trying to get these laurels, the things on the with the little olive branches around it for all the film festivals you went to. Being involved in a legit like feature film, I learned quite a lot about doing it. Kind of made my little crappy film, sort of pale in comparison. But my hope is that Up Uranus is going to be some kind of a cult. We need a cult following, and even some of the people who ran some of these little theaters where End of Wonderland played are like, we would love to play Up Uranus. Because it is not a jerk off on the seats kind of film. It is a funny film that just happens to have some tranny sex in it. But it may be like, I think it has the potential to be like a Rocky Horror kind of thing where people like yell things at the screen, or I don't know if they would dress up as the characters or whatever. But yeah. So I think, okay, so one of the next things I'm going to work on, I need to make a preview of the film or trailer or whatever, right? So don't know if I can actually do a PG rated trailer. I will try. But I think I will definitely be able to do an X-rated trailer. And that'll probably be available for free for the various places where you can see that kind of stuff. Because you want to promote your film and you want to get people to buy it, to actually legitimately download and stuff. Because all those downloads do actually come to me. My manyvids.com account, Tara Emory. I actually get a cut, a significant cut of them because I run my own store on ManyVids. Whether I'll get it on another thing, like would I put it on my OnlyFans? I don't know. OnlyFans, what I hate about OnlyFans is the fact that you do a post, right? And then you do your next post, and then you do your next post, and then you do your next post. And it's like a pile of papers. And somebody comes to your OnlyFans site and they only see what's on the top. If they want to see what's at the bottom, they gotta like pull each page up. It's a terrible format. There's no way of like, oh, I want to find something and go through a menu and it has like 10 choices and go to another page with a menu with 10 choices. It's a terrible format. Sorry I had to complain about OnlyFans. I've been making websites for 20 years and I swear to God, like website design has just completely gone to shit in the last 10 years or 5 years or whatever. Whatever the most recent thing you updated was. Whatever the most recent thing you updated was, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Sorry, I didn't mean to go off on a tangent. I just need to rant about OnlyFans. It's just crazy because like that means that like, I could just take a photo shoot that I posted a year ago and repost it, and no one's gonna go back and look through them again. I could just infinitely post everything I've ever done to OnlyFans, and I'm happy that I was able to talk about Up Uranus for a good hour or so, and also End of Wonderland as well.